Welcome. My name is Nithya Shanti, and I'd like to share with you today something very profound and something very practical as well. A little bit about myself. I've lived in the past as a forest monk in the traditions of Thailand and Sri Lanka, and in that time I had the privilege to interact with some truly wise, enlightened masters. In this journey of self-introspection, self-awareness and self-discovery, I learned a whole range of different teachings, very practical and very important for us in our day-to-day life. Since I left the robes a few years back, I've been sharing these things I've learned with groups large and small and even individuals. Of all the things I've learned, the central most important thing, which is the most transformational and bestows the greatest blessings, is the practice of meditation. There are many practices of meditation, many different styles, many different techniques. But essentially, when it all comes down, meditation is about being attentive, attention. And I'd like to share with you today one of the most simple, elegant, and yet powerful methods of meditation. A practice called Mahasati. To introduce Mahasati, I'd like to say a few words. This practice was popularized by a teacher called Luang Por Teean, a master who lived in Thailand. When he was young, he became a monk, and as is common in Thailand, after a while he left the robes, came back to continue his family business. He was very devout. He would often come to the village monastery and do a lot of social work in terms of serving the monks. He even at one point single-handedly built a whole building just for the monks. So he was a very devout person, and he was also quite successful in his work. He had a shipping business, and they took goods from one part of Thailand down the Mekong River to other places. He was a trader in a sense. And there came a time when he shifted his home from one town to another town. And as he went to the other town, there we have in the Buddhist tradition something called the Varshavas, or the rains retreat, the time when all the monks stopped traveling and they stayed one place for 3 months. For 3 months, they dedicate themselves to meditation practice, to study, and to deepening their cultivation. Now, at the end of the rains retreat, monks are offered robes, they're offered cloth by the lay followers. It's a tradition. It's called kathina. And as he came to this new town, he wanted to participate in the kathina celebrations. And he went to that monastery in the new town, and he joined the committee which was organizing the kathina celebrations. He was made one of the committee members. And in the process of organizing it, there arose a slight disagreement among him and another committee member. And that disagreement escalated into a full-blown shouting match. When he came home that evening, he introspected. He said, "For so many years, I have been practicing generosity. For so many years, I have been serving the monks and other people. For so many years, I've been studying the Buddha's teachings. I've even been practicing meditation. How is it that despite all of this practice, I can still lose my temper in this way? I can still be so egoistic?" He realized that his practice was still not ripe, and he had to give himself more time. He had to really apply himself to go beyond these defilements like anger. And so he told his wife that he is leaving home for some time to deepen his practice. He wasn't sure where he would go. He just left home and began wandering. A few days later, he arrived at a village monastery. And in that village monastery, as he entered, he found a monk who was making certain hand movements. making certain hand movements. He was surprised. He'd never seen a monk making hand movements like this. In this way, the monk was making hand movements, graceful, simple hand movements. Ajahn Teean, at that time he was still a layperson, and he went to Venerable, "What are you practicing?" And the Venerable said, "This is a form of developing awareness in daily life, and I can teach it to you if you like." And he taught him the meditation practice. With great enthusiasm, he learned the practice and he began practicing. And he practiced day and night. Such was his devotion, such was his dedication. He barely slept, he just practiced. He slept for a little while, he practiced, he slept for a little while. In all postures, seated, standing, walking and lying down, he practiced. And just in a few days, he reached the end of all suffering. It's also called enlightenment. He lost the ability to suffer. Ajahn Teean came back from this monastery and began teaching his wife and relatives. And they also began to get greatly benefited from this practice. And as the months progressed and other people began learning from him, he realized the best way to serve the world was for him to become a monk. And he again ordained as a monk, a Buddhist monk, and he began teaching this practice for the remainder of his life. And today it is one of the most popular meditation methods in Thailand. A very simple practice of awareness of one's body movements. Body movements. Awareness on the body. Kaya Gata Sati. Awareness on the body. And the Buddha highly praised this practice. The Buddha said, just like an ocean, a great ocean, a Mahasamudra, all the rivers flow into this great ocean. In the same way, one who establishes awareness, mindfulness on the body, all the good qualities that partake of liberation are found in this person. All wholesome states. So a very simple practice like hand movements is enough for us. Is practical and simple and enough for us to get great benefits on our spiritual journey. It leads us to being mindful and aware through our whole day. And so as I learned this practice when I was a monk in Thailand, I learned it from a venerable teacher, Ajahn Jinavamso. He was a monk from Holland, a Dutch monk, and he'd been living in Thailand for many years. And he taught me this practice. I was very surprised. I'd never heard of a practice like this, which involved movement of one's hands, which involved keeping one's eyes open. You don't even close your eyes in this practice. You keep your eyes open. And I experimented with this practice. And I found that it was amazing how my meditation awareness spilled over into my day. Something that I had not found in the previous meditation practices I'd done. I found a lot of calm, a lot of serenity which came from that, a lot of peace which came from that. However, when I got up from my meditation cushion, I began to lose it as I went into my day. But with Mahasati, I found it was not the case. The practice I did stayed with me for the whole day. And not just that, I found that when I slept at night, it was very remarkable. When I slept at night, the whole night I was aware of the body movements. It was something fascinating, something I'd never experienced before. I remember one occasion where we were in the forest, Ajahn Jinavamso and I, and we were sitting, and he would recommend that we practice for at least 2 hours at a time. And we were in the forest, we were practicing this method, and there were these flies in the forest, and they came and they would just come close to your ear, and they go away, and they come, and they go away. And as monks, we keep one of our shoulders bare when we are inside a monastery. And so it would come and it would sit on your shoulder and it would go away. It would sit in your ear, it would go away. It was very, very irritating. And it's even more irritating to know that you're there for full 2 hours, So a sense that when is it going to get over? This is like, these bees are really irritating me. These flies are really irritating me. And I noticed that as I moved my hands, when I was aware of the movement of my hands, at that time, there was no suffering. But when I was worried about the thoughts of when will these bees go away, when will this stop, there was tremendous suffering. I got a direct lesson how my own thoughts cause suffering. When I was in a state of awareness, the bee was there, I could chew it off, and that was it. But when I was in a state of thought, I was projecting past into the future, there was a lot of worry. There was a lot of concern, there was a lot of suffering. So I realized from my experience that this is a practice which can directly cut into our suffering. So this practice of Mahasati, Sati, the word Sati means awareness, Mahasati means great awareness, is a very simple practice which we can all do and easily integrate into our life. I've been teaching this practice for several years now, and everyone who's tried it and really sincerely applied themselves has come back to tell me similar benefits. They find that their awareness stays with them through the day. They find they're more energetic. They find there's greater clarity and there's less confusion. They find that they can cut thought at any time in the day. Something remarkable. Something remarkable. It's not a practice which has too much philosophy to it. It's not a practice which has many levels to it that one has to go level by level. Very straightforward. One movement, one stopping. One movement, one stopping. You move the hand, you stop. You move the hand, you stop. And the awareness is there. And the awareness is there. Again and again the mind wanders. Again and again you bring it back. Again and again the mind wanders. Again and again you bring it back. This is the simplicity of the practice. There is a lot one can say, even though it's a simple practice. I just want to leave you with one story before we actually get into the practice and learn how do we apply this powerful, wonderful teaching. And that is a story of a house which was filled with rats. There was a house which was filled with rats. And there were large rats, and there were small rats, and these rats were all over the house. Throughout the house there were these rats. These rats ate up all the food in the house. They were all over the place. They literally owned the place. However, most people hadn't noticed this, but in one corner of this house, there was a tiny little kitten. A small pussycat, a baby pussycat. And this pussycat, because no one had noticed it, no one had nourished it, no one had fed it. It was a very hungry, malnourished pussycat. The owner of the house noticed this one day, and he realized this poor pussycat is not being fed. So what he began doing was, in the morning, put a little saucer of food, of milk, for this cat to have. 10-15 minutes in the morning, 10-15 minutes in the morning, sometimes in the evening, morning, evening, began feeding this pussycat. She began getting stronger and stronger and stronger. One day, the pussycat was bold enough to try to catch a rat. She left her corner and she went to try to catch a rat. She put her paws on the rat, but the rat was still very strong. It dragged the cat all around. Eventually, she had to let go and run back to her corner. But the owner kept feeding her, the owner kept on feeding her, and the cat grew stronger and stronger and stronger day by day. One day again, the pussycat got the courage to go and fight with the rat. And this time, there was a huge fight between the pussycat and the rat. For the first time ever, the cat won. And she had that rat for dinner that day. Got a whole new confidence, got a whole new strength. From now on, more and more easily, with greater and greater confidence, the cat could catch the rat, could eat the rat. Earlier, it used to be a big fight. Now, very quickly, without too much effort. In fact, reached a point where just one strong attack on the rat was enough, and the rat would just die. It reached to such a point that all the rats were afraid. They were so afraid of this cat that even from a distance, if they saw the cat, the rats had a heart attack and they died. Such was the fearsomeness and the strength and the power of this cat now. Forget about having rats in that house. Even in the vicinity of that house, in the neighborhood of that house, there were no more rats. Why? Because the reputation of this cat was such that no rat dared venture close. Now after a while, this cat began getting bored and said, it really would be nice to have a few rats to play with. But she was so powerful, all she had to do was command the rats to come. And rats came into the house, they did a small circus performance for her, she was entertained, and then the cat said, okay, you can leave now, and the rats left. So as most of you understand, this is a story with a deeper significance. Each of the elements in the story represents something. The house represents something, the rats represent something, the food represents something, the kitten, the pussycat represents something, and some of you have already guessed what it represents. The house represents our being. The rats represent the thoughts, the unconscious thoughts, the involuntary thoughts which are constantly filling this house, our being. There's so many of them. They're large and they're small, and they're eating up all the food. And what does food mean? Food represents our energy. And we've all noticed when we think too much through the day, we get tired very fast. We lose our energy. Thoughts take up a lot of our energy. Now in this house is also, in the corner, a small little pussycat. And what does that represent, you think? It represents awareness, mindfulness. And this pussycat, many of us have never fed. We've never even noticed that it's there. However, as owners of this house, we decide, time to feed the cat. And every day we start dedicating some time for meditation practice, such as the Mahasati practice you're about to learn today. And every day, 15-20 minutes, half an hour, 15-20 minutes, half an hour, feeding the cat, feeding the cat, feeding the cat, morning and evening, morning and evening. The cat gets stronger, the cat gets stronger. The pussy cat gets strong enough to try to go and hold on to a thought and fight with the thought. However, the thought is sometimes still very strong. It overpowers us. However, without losing our faith, without losing our cheerfulness and our enthusiasm, we keep on feeding the cat, keep on feeding the cat. It gets stronger and stronger. It comes to a point where the cat can instantly catch a rat. And the moment it catches a rat, the rat is dead. Which means awareness can overcome our thoughts. And it reached a point where this cat could instantly overcome the rats. The awareness could overcome the thoughts in just one sweep. It reached a point where even from a distance, if the rat saw the cat, it would be overcome, which means that even from a distance, the moment you have a mindful of awareness, thoughts dare even enter sometimes. And especially the unwholesome thoughts, they don't even dare enter. Awareness gets so established. And the whole story reaches a point where this cat's reputation becomes so fearsome that even in the vicinity of the house, forget about the house itself, even in the vicinity of the house, there are no more rats. And what does that mean? It means that a person who is so established in awareness, who is so established in mindfulness, forget about thoughts tormenting this person. Even when other person come into the vicinity of this person, they feel calm. Restless thoughts do not torment them so much as they used to. And like we saw in the story, eventually the cat gets kind of bored and says, what if I were to invite some rats to do a little circus performance for me? Which means that in our life there are times when thoughts are required. We need to plan things, we need to prepare for certain things in a certain way, and thoughts are actually required at that point. The awareness will call in the thoughts consciously. This is different from superficial unconscious thought. This is deep thinking. This is considered, reflective, deep thought. And this is the kind of thought that the cat will invite. The best kind of rats will come and perform. The best kind of thoughts will come and will serve us when awareness is so established. In this way, we've taken the whole journey from a house that was full of rats, running all over the place, eating up all the food, to developing this faculty of awareness, of mindfulness, developing it, to a point where it's so strong now, there are no more rats, and the rats that are needed come in, they do their job, and they leave. This is the beautiful mind. This is actually the normal mind. I found in my own practice, I found in the practice of people who have applied this teaching, so much clarity comes, so much awareness comes, so much strength of mind comes, and inner radiance shines forth. So I'm pleased to share with you Mahasati meditation as taught by Luang Por Teean from Thailand. I'll be sharing this with you in the 4 postures: the seated posture, the walking posture, the standing posture, as well as the lying down posture. We will discuss how to do this practice in all postures, including, as you go through the day, the simple movements you can make to return to deep awareness. This is a very, very simple, profound, meaningful meditation. Please join me on this wonderful journey of self-discovery and enlightenment. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. And now we are prepared to learn Mahasati meditation. The main practice of Mahasati is done while seated. And in the seated posture, keeping our eyes open, keeping an erect posture, we will practice Mahasati meditation. This is a unique practice. In this practice, we move our hands and we are aware of the movement of the hands. Notice how we move our hands. To begin with, assume a posture where your legs are crossed comfortably, or if you're on a chair, make sure your legs are down, straight, erect frame, with your feet flat on the ground. And begin by keeping both your palms on your knees comfortably. The first movement is of your right hand. Notice my right hand. My right hand turns to the right. I'll repeat the movement. My right hand turns to the right on the side and it stops. Notice that I don't lift my hand to do this. I simply turn it to the right, like this, and I stop. The second movement is I raise the hand to my shoulder level and I stop. And now we bring the hand gently to place it on the belly, touching the belly lightly, and we stop. And now we take the left hand and again turn it to the side like we did with the right hand, and we stop. Lift it up to shoulder level and we stop. Bring the hand over the first hand, lightly touching it, and we stop. And now the first hand, the right hand, gently comes to the heart region, to the chest region, gently touching the chest, and sweeps out to the right and down again and down. And the second hand, the left hand, comes to the heart region, gently touches, turns to the left and down and down. So these are all the movements of Mahasati. We will repeat these movements again and again with awareness. When the hand is moving, we are clearly aware that it's moving. When the hand has stopped moving, we are aware that it's stopped moving. Just that much. And as we do this simple practice, we find, before we know it, the mind just slips away and we bring it back. And again it slips away and we bring it back cheerfully. This whole practice is to cheerfully return again and again to the body movements, awareness of body movements. Let us start the practice. Begin by making a clear intention. In this practice, we keep our eyes open, and the eyes are relaxed. They don't have to be focused on any one spot, or they may get strained. Just let the eyes move as they like, in any direction. Awareness on the movement of the hands. When the hand is moving, there is clear awareness that it's moving. When the hand is stopped, there's clear awareness that it stopped. Just that much. Awareness from the beginning of the movement to the very end of the movement. Continuous, constant awareness. Be sure to stop between the movements. Just aware of one movement from beginning to end. This is Mahasati practice. And the speed of the movements will vary depending on the state of your mind. If you find the mind is very agitated and restless, you might want to do a slightly faster movement. And then slow it down, slowing down the mind along with it. Slow it down. Elongate the stops in between the movements to calm the restless mind. This is a very natural practice, stress-free practice. There is no goal to attain. There is no higher level to reach. Just one movement. And if you find the mind is very lethargic, you could start with slower movements. And then speed up the movements and work with faster movements, keeping the awareness the whole time. This makes the mind alert.
And in this way, we continue the practice. You could even practice all day long and you will find your hands don't get tired. Instead, there is the blissful feeling of lightness. Truly, awareness makes the mind and body very bright. Enjoy each movement. Enjoy each stopping. There's nothing as pleasant as being in the present moment. Enjoy the present moment. And in this way, you can practice for 15 minutes, for half an hour, for 2 hours, for as long as you like. Whenever you feel tired of sitting, you can change your posture. You can practice walking meditation as well. Make the most of this wonderful practice of Mahasati meditation. And as you develop this practice, you will find that not just when you're sitting meditation, but through your whole day, you find this clear awareness of simple movements like picking up a glass of water to drink, or as you're walking from one end of your office to the other end, or even as you're making habitual movements like fixing your hair or scratching a part of your face. It becomes a moment of awareness. What would normally be a very unconscious movement is now a moment of awareness. Let us now discuss walking meditation. And now we will practice the walking meditation aspect of Mahasati meditation. In this practice, we will choose a path which is approximately 15 or 20 paces long, and we will walk mindfully from the beginning of the path till the end of the path. We will turn around and again walk mindfully from one end of the path to the other end of the path. One thing to keep in mind as we do this practice is that it's done very naturally. Done very naturally without feeling very tense or very stressed. Walk naturally, slightly slower than you would walk normally, but we walk naturally. It's nice to keep our hands one in front of the other, as we will demonstrate. Either fold your hands in front or fold them behind, whatever is more comfortable for you. And keeping that posture, whenever we start walking meditation, we take a minute to just compose ourselves, get ourselves back in the present moment. Make a strong intention that for the time that you are doing this practice, whenever the mind wanders, you'll come right back into the present moment. Whenever the mind wanders, come right back in the present moment. And the nature of the mind is to wander. Again and again it wanders. Again and again, cheerfully we bring it back to the moment. With this cheerful attitude, we make the most of this practice session. You can walk meditation for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour or as long as you like. There is no limit to how much time you can do this practice. The important thing to keep in mind is that every single step you are aware of the rising of the step, the moving of the step and the falling of the feet. You can be aware of the feel of your feet on the ground, or you could be aware of just the movement of the feet, or all of these things together. The real point is to be in the present moment. Every time you reach the end of the walking path, turn around from your right side and again establish awareness. Don't move just yet. Wait for about 5 seconds. Make a clear intention in the mind that I will walk from this end till the other end of the walking path without losing my mindfulness, without losing my awareness. As you make this intention and as you renew this intention each time, you find you get great success in this beautiful practice of walking meditation. Let us now practice walking meditation. Let us now discuss standing meditation. Mahasati practice can be done in all the 4 postures. The seated posture we have already discussed. We have also seen how to practice walking meditation. Let us now learn how to practice Mahasati when standing. The movements of the hands when standing are almost identical to those when sitting, with one slight variation, that as we lift our hands in the beginning, we don't turn them to a side as we did in the sitting posture. With that one minor variation, the standing meditation also involves movement of the hands as we stand comfortably with our feet shoulder width apart and keeping our awareness on the movement of the hands with our eyes open. Let us now understand how this is done. So we have discussed Mahasati meditation. We have discussed how to practice when seated. We have discussed how to practice when walking. We've also discussed how to practice when standing. In all these postures, we can practice awareness of body movements through the rhythmic movement of our hands, in the case of walking, through the awareness of each step. How do we practice awareness of body movements when sleeping? When you lie down, you could either continue making the hand movements even as you lie down, much the same way as you would when you are standing, or if you wish, while lying down, to a side or on your back. Simply open and close your fist. As you are opening your fingers, be aware that you are opening your fingers. Opening and closing any one fist, or if you wish both the fists of your hand, you become aware of body movements until you fall asleep. A very wholesome way to fall asleep. Another wonderful way to integrate this practice into your life is that when you're traveling on a bus or in your car, simply keep your hand on the lap and turn the hand to a side and turn it down again. Turn it to a side, stop, and turn it down again. Or again, if you wish, open a fist, close a fist. Open a fist, close a fist. As we do this practice, we find any time in the day we want, we can cut through our wandering thoughts simply by one act of awareness, one act of being aware of our body movements. One of my teachers used to say that this practice is like two trains that are running in parallel. One is the train of thought, which is running along. And this train has been running all our life. And the other is the train of awareness, which is now catching up with this train of thought. Catching up. And as we do this practice, the train of awareness is getting faster and faster until it comes in parallel to this train of thought. And as we develop the practice even further, the train of awareness actually overtakes the train of thought. It cuts the train of thought again and again and again and again. And as the train of awareness speeds up and goes faster than the train of thought, our suffering dramatically reduces because we stop being fooled by our own thinking. This is the benefit of Mahasati practice. All our suffering arises because we argue with reality, because we believe the wandering thoughts that pass through our mind, because we become completely victims of all our moods, helpless victims of all our mood swings. With Mahasati practice, we can step back into awareness any time of the day. And this concludes our discussion of Mahasati meditation, a very simple practice, but very profound. The benefits of this practice are to be experienced, to be known. So many moments of awareness start permeating our day. It's filled with connection to ourselves, connection to each other, connection to the moment and the work at hand. When there's something to do, we give it everything we've got. And when there's nothing to do, we come back to ourselves. We do nothing. We return to awareness. Luang Por Teean gave a guarantee to his disciples. He said, if you practice the way I have described, then I guarantee to you that within 3 years, you will certainly attain nirvana. You will gain enlightenment. That is a very wonderful, a very profound guarantee to give a student. Let us begin practicing this every day. You can start with 10 minutes of walking meditation practice, and then sit down and do another 20 minutes of seated meditation practice. And this way, start with half an hour of practice a day. If you like, you can also do in the evening, half an hour of practice. Whenever required, do the standing practice. And before going to bed, make the practice of opening and closing your fist, or if you like, moving the hands the way you would when you were seated. I wish you all success in this practice. May you use it for your highest benefit. May you live with awareness and love. My name is Nithya Shanti, and I share Mahasati practice and other wonderful practices and principles for a more awakened conscious life with friends in India and all around the world. To know more about my work and to join me on a meditation retreat, please visit my website www.lovingsilence.org. All my good wishes. Be happy. Be happy. Be happy.